Shocking is just one of the words being used to describe a new report on the experiences of women veterans in this country. Women make up approximately 16% of the Canadian military, and this report, titled Invisible No More, found that thousands of women have faced sexual violence in the Canadian military in recent years and have little recourse in response and often face roadblocks into accessing veteran services. Joining us this morning from Ottawa is the Member of Parliament who put forth the report, MP Rachel Blaney of North Island Powell River. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
So this report looked at women veterans from the Canadian Armed Forces and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And we know there have been several reports and damning investigations and recommendations made in the past several years in an effort to improve conditions for women in our military. But what are you hoping this report will change?
Well, there's a lot we're hoping this report will change. 42 recommendations is pretty significant. But I would say one of the highlights for me is the fact that what's happened to women often when they are serving in the Canadian Armed Forces is it's not researched well enough. It's not documented well enough. And so what this means for women veterans is that when they go to get services, because it isn't properly documented, they have no recourse. So we're really trying to say, look at veteran women are now invisible because they were made invisible while they were serving the Canadian Armed Forces, and that needs to be remedied so that their experience is reflected in the reality and that the resources are there for them when they are done their service.
MP Blaney, why did they also include the RCMP in this report?
Well, because RCMP actually access services through Veterans Affairs after they do their work as RCMP officers. And so we saw that women across the board, in terms of receiving their services, were not getting the same amount. And it was very interesting to me how many times women were told things like, you know, I know you're sick. We can't provide you services in the house because you're in charge of cleaning. Or, you know, we won't provide services for somebody to mow your lawn as you age and get older and are fragile because that's something your husband should be doing for you. So there's just these really interesting realities that we see men veterans are not facing at all in the same way.
What's also interesting to me is that these stories are recent. Some of the reports in the past have been on, systemic issues, but these women that you spoke with, these are recent events. Your team interviewed roughly 100 witnesses, and you've heard firsthand their stories. What stood out to you? What are some of the most memorable?
Well, I said it before, it was appalling how many women actually faced military sexual trauma, misconduct, really disheartening to see so many women come forward and talk about that experience. But it was also interesting and devastating, in my opinion, to hear how many women just didn't get the proper care. They're women. So when they were pregnant, they weren't given information. There's not enough research on what their care needs to be during that time of pregnancy and service. And we heard from health professionals that there was simple things that could be done. For example, while a woman is pregnant, depending on the work that she's doing, just knowing how to move her body properly to carry things could make a big difference. And the fact that there's no research. So we heard a story that was horrifying and one that will always stay with me, of a woman who was flying a fighter jet and she was pregnant and she lost the pregnancy and miscarried. The issue is we don't know why. We don't know how military service can impact pregnancy, which means that women aren't given the choice and the information to make the best decisions for themselves. So that's the concerning part for me. It's just how many women are made invisible because we haven't done our work as a country to make sure their needs and body needs and just physiological needs are taken care of.
Yeah, when you make a space for women in a place but then don't address the needs that go along with being a woman, what you're actually saying is there's really no space for you here. The Royal Canadian Legion came out yesterday. They fully endorsed the 42 recommendations that came from the report. But we know that a lot of discussion has been had over the years about the systemic nature of sexual abuses for women in the military or being ignored. Some of it's baked in. How are you hopeful these recommendations will take effect?
Well, I'm hopeful that we see some real action. One of the things that we've asked for is that both the Canadian Armed Forces and Veterans Affairs Canada come together and create an advisory of women. One of the things that was so clear during the report was that these two bodies are not talking to each other well enough. And so we need to make sure that when women become veterans and Veteran Affairs is assessing issues and seeing that proper documentation wasn't happening while they were serving, that there's a conversation happening back and forth so that that work is done sooner in the Canadian Armed Forces. So I really hope that that comes together and that we see some women leading the way and really allowing these services to become more wholesome and fulsome. I think the other thing that is so important to me is that we start addressing this sort of environment, this sort of toxic masculinity environment. You know, there's a lot of good people. I represent 19 Wing, Comox. The people who serve are tremendous and amazing, and the work they do, I'm so grateful. But there's some issues there that need to be dealt with. And I think what we need to see, honestly, is veteran women leading the way and veteran men supporting and having them do the training with people that are currently serving. They know what it is to serve, and they can work together in a way that civilians can't. And I want to see more of that investment.
MP Blaney, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.